Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2021 Applied Sport Management Conference. I'm Dr. Robert Zullo from Westminster College in Pennsylvania. Our guest today is Matt Chelap, a vice president with Octagon. So, Matt, welcome.
Good afternoon, Dr. Zullo. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Could you tell us how you got started in your position?
That's a good one. It's a long story, so I'll try to keep it short. I've been with Octagon coming up on March, will be 17 years. Started as an intern, and I've just worked my way up the company. They keep paying me, so I just keep showing up. It's crazy. But no, I grew up having a passion for sports, played it, watched it, devoured it all throughout my childhood and through college. Was never good enough to, play at an elite level. So it was like, how else can I still be involved? And I found out, you could major in sports with a sports marketing degree. So I got an undergraduate degree in that at Valparaiso University. Wanted to get more education and spend more money. So I went to the University of Georgia and got a master's degree there. And while I was getting my master's at Georgia, an internship with Octagon came up on ESPN College Game Day. And as you say, the rest is history. So that's how I got started.
Well, go Bulldogs. Could you take us through what a normal day would look like before we encountered COVID-19 in this global pandemic?
The easy answer is usually cliche that every day is different, no day is the same. But a lot of it depends on where my clients are. A lot of my clients are West Coast based. So on a normal day, my mornings would be filled with meetings and just actually getting work done before my clients would kind of come online around 12 or 1 o'clock, because I'm based on the East Coast. And a lot of that then comes in status meetings, requests, email responses, and things like that. And it really is just, as I like to say, it's organized chaos throughout the day. We always have a lot of programming going on, events happening, people around the world doing stuff. So, you never know what might pop up or what fire you have to put out, but every day is different. Yes, I did this job because I do sports, but I also do this job because every day keeps you on your toes. And one day is definitely not like the same. One day I could be negotiating contracts, so I'm pretending to be a lawyer. The next day I could be at an event, so I'm a party planner. The next one I could be, just trying to provide a crisis solver as an issue's going on between a client and a sponsor, stuff like that. So I wear many different hats, and every day is probably different of what type of hat that I'm wearing.
And then how has that really changed since COVID has affected us since last March?
Well, we're not doing any events anymore. So I think from that standpoint, that portion of the job has been put on hold. But from a lot of our clients, they're big multi-million-dollar deals they have with these properties and teams. And obviously, those sponsorships have changed. If there's no fans in the stands or games are being canceled or ratings are down, that affects the value of our sponsorship. So a lot of our time is taken on reevaluating things, saying, all right, the contract said X, but now we're getting Y. What's the make good, or how do we meet in the middle? And here at Octagon, we've got a whole team of strategists and researchers that really help us dive into specific numbers. So we go back to these teams of properties, say we've lost X amount of value, and here's how Y. We need to get X back and a make good or cash back. So it hasn't been the most fun stuff, but that's really taken a lot of time because that matters. And we really got to say, do we solve it now, or do we push the stuff off and assets to next year? And what's the best strategy? And every client and their business is different. So just, I deal with 3 different clients: Home Depot, PlayStation, and Georgia Power. And each one has different priorities. So, in the morning, I might have my PlayStation cap on. I got to take that off and have my Home Depot hard hat on. And then, got to adjust differently, because some of the properties that I deal with, our clients are the same sponsors. So we're asking for different things and stuff like that. But it's changed. But, for the Zoom world, I try to keep things the same, actually. I still get dressed up. I still put on a shirt and tie every day to kind of keep that routine, and for my mindset that I'm going into the office. So I learned very early on, without that routine, you can get into some really bad habits. And this job, now that you can't ever walk away from it, can really control your life. So I kind of try to keep like I am going into the office, normal time, normal routines, just for my sanity's sake. And it's worked so good, far so good, but we're a year into it. I don't know how much longer we can go.
Right there, that's great advice for our students that are tuning in, is to try to differentiate their work, going to classes and maybe practice, but then making time for themselves. You mentioned Home Depot. Could you take us through Home Depot's sponsorship of one of the more popular events or activities that the students might be familiar with, which is their sponsorship of ESPN College Game Day. And what did that look like before COVID, and what adjustments have you guys had to make since the global pandemic?
Well, it's a crown jewel, I would say, of their sponsorship portfolio. I mean, we've been with the show going on, this was 18 years. So there's a lot that's built up and traditions and things over time. And as we all know, as we watched the show this year, there was no crowds. The show was in stadiums without the fans and without the students, which is really the energy. So in a normal circumstances, we'd be on site passing out the hard hats, doing a sign painting station so the kids can make those, very good signs and stuff like that behind the camera. We would also be hosting people. We do hospitality. We take them and they meet the Corso and Herb Street and Reese and Dez, and we take them to the games and stuff like that. All that went away. But obviously, being the title sponsor, we're still very involved in the show, and like, how do we still get that value out of it? Another thing is, even though it's College Game Day built by Home Depot, when you walk into a Home Depot store, you don't see Home Depot products on the shelves. You see a Traeger grill or this type of a tool and stuff like that. So a lot of our vendor partners are involved in the show through pass-through rights and things like that. And we try to highlight them. As if you ever watch the show, there's that segment where there's a local chef from a restaurant cooking on a Traeger grill. It was like, well, that would go away because usually you can't really have that on site without the fans stuff. So we came up with what we called pop-up game day, where we went to the home of either a Home Depot customer or a super fan in that market and kind of gave them a special experience. And that's what got featured on the show. So we can kind of continue that, bring our products to life, feature our vendor partners, and also reward some key customers around the country through some unique and special experiences. So that's how we had to adapt this year. It wasn't easy, but that's kind of one of the things, like, all right, we can't do option A, but we need to do option B or C. And we're hopeful that what we learned this year, we can then apply in future years, that, maybe something worked or didn't work, or we have to adjust. And now we found a new answer.
Well, it was always a good stress relief to see Lee Corso poolside at his home. I think he became everybody's grandfather, just kind of relaxing everybody during this pandemic, just to see the mascots in the background and making sure that we continue to move forward despite some of these challenges. So, well, what about, you also mentioned PlayStation, and I know that PlayStation has been synonymous with the Fiesta Bowl. So what have been some of the challenges and some of the adaptations you've had to do with PlayStation, and maybe that you've heard of with other bowl games as well?
Well, it was outside of our control, but in Phoenix and in the state of Arizona area, they decided there'd be no fans. So a lot of our activations are at the Fan Fest leading up into the game, what we do in stadium, the features we show on the big screen and stuff like that. So all that stuff went away. But first and foremost, it's a big media buy. We're still going to get our TV commercials. People are still going to watch. People are still going to see the branding on the field and the commercials that we're going to run and broadcast. So that didn't go away. So we still had all of that to do, which takes a lot of time and effort, and all the branding and the signage in stadium. And this year, with the PlayStation 5 coming out, it was all new. We couldn't reuse stuff in the past. So we had to start from scratch and build everything there. So that kept us still very busy, because even though there was no fans in the stands, it's still a TV broadcast of a game and all the trappings that come with it. We tried to adjust a little bit on site. We put, if you looked in both end zones, characters of famous PlayStation games, as the cardboard cutouts. We kind of joined that craze. And, there was a lot of social chatter and social media that we pushed out from that. That kind of helped fill that little bit of gap and add a little bit of fun to it. But I would say with the Fiesta Bowl, yes, we couldn't entertain people on site or be with the fans and doing stuff on game day. A lot of it we still were able to do through the TV commercials and the branding and stuff like that. And it turned out to be a pretty good game. So we were happy about that.
You just have to adapt and move forward, I guess. Well, is there anything you'd like to share about Octagon? I mean, Octagon is a global sports marketing firm, and they're involved in so many different aspects. What have they done to adapt to assist its sister clients during this global pandemic? You mentioned some of the case studies that you talked about with Home Depot and PlayStation. But what are some of the other things that maybe the people who are attending the conference might find interesting that you'd like to share?
So I think early on, we obviously knew that, the world of sports had changed. There weren't going to be events and festivals and games for a long time. And even if there were, it'd be a long time till fans were back in the stands or at full capacity. So we've got a really great group of people in our research, insights, and strategies team. They kind of came up with, they call it property impact assessment, to kind of value all of these sponsorships and the deals that all of our clients have, to see all of the value lost and how this was impacting us, whether debt ratings drops, what assets cannot be used, empty stadiums, what does this mean? So a lot of it was educating our clients and then using that information and arming them with all that great data. So as we talk to these teams and properties to renegotiate our deals or figure out contracts, we weren't just doing it off the cuff. We were backed up by fact, research, and black and white numbers that helped. And that took a lot of our time over the summer and it really helped aid our clients there. I think the other thing was, and we are still doing now, is still running scenarios and trying to project what the future is going to be. We don't want to be caught flat-footed. So we're always trying to be ahead of the curve. Like, all right, if we go back to somewhat normalcy, here's how we're going to operate. Here are the changes we're going to have to make. Here are the protocols for fans or hosting people, or even putting our staff back on the road. As you can imagine, that takes a big effort, and we have a lot of things to follow to keep everybody safe and sound. So we're always reevaluating and trying to say, what's the world going to be, and trying to predict the future for our clients to help guide them the best we can. So in a way, we try to have a crystal ball, but we're like everybody else. Sometimes you figure it out as you go, but you can't stand flat-footed. And I think that's the biggest thing we do for our clients, is we have to be most proactive as possible to guide them, because I think we're all optimistic eventually we will get back to normal. But what is that normal? And I don't know if the normal where we left will be the same. Some stuff might go away. Other stuff might be new. You look like the NFL and the new signage tarps that they put around the stadium. They would have never done that in a normal time period because they like trying to keep a clean zone. But now it creates a new opportunity. I think there's some sponsorships that would have never happened before that are going to happen now. And we've got to be on the forefront of that, so we know what's happening in the industry, what we think it's going, and how our clients can best succeed in it.
I can only imagine how challenging that is, having seen like the PlayStation 18-wheeler at the Major League Baseball All-Star game in Cleveland. Well, that seems so long ago, and here you are trying to deal with not just global pandemic, but also different interpretations of rulings across 50 states. And I imagine that must be a day-to-day logistic that you're always keeping an eye on.
Totally. I mean, I think one of the tough ones for us is, for Octagon, we're very big into college football, from Home Depot to PlayStation to Taco Bell to General Mills to Allstate. And everybody touches college football in a different way, from the TV show College Game Day to bowl entitlements of the Allstate Sugar Bowl and the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl to team sponsorships. And as we all know, because we love the sport so much, it's very disjointed. Not one person or entities in charge. So you have the Big Ten doing it one way, SEC doing it another way, the college football playoff doing it another way. So some of our clients, it's like, well, you can do that over here, but over here you can't do that. We've got games, we might not have games. So yeah, it's really, you have to be adaptable. And you got to be on your feet, and you really got to have your finger on the pulse. And some of our clients aren't as immersed in college sports like we are. So trying to guide them, like, well, what do you mean the NCAA is not stepping in and doing this? Or what do you mean the Big Ten is doing that, but the ACC is doing that? And you also have to kind of educate people, like, this is kind of how this big mishmash works, and here's how we're going to guide you through it.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with that. I'd like to take a second to maybe shift gears a little bit. And as we wrap up our talk, maybe suggest any book recommendations or conferences to attend, organizations to join, social media accounts to follow. What are some things that the students should really take away and say, all right, I need to go check that out right now because Mr. Matt told me to do that?
Well, the easiest thing is everybody should have a subscription and reads the Sports Business Journal every day. From the daily to the issue that they put out every week. That should be your Bible and your first read before you're going to ESPN.com or CNN or stuff like that. That's where you need to be reading to keep up to date on what the industry is doing. And they've got a great podcast series where they interview a lot of people in the industry on how the pandemic's affecting them, how they're adapting, where they think the industry is going. So I'd say that's number one. That's the low-hanging fruit. A book recommendation, I'll recommend it to anybody who I ever talk to. It's Find Your Why by Simon Sinek. It's both from a personal standpoint and from a professional standpoint. You can sum up the book in one statement. He said this in a famous TED Talk. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that's yourself. You can look at yourself as a brand, or you try to sell yourself to get a job or an internship to companies. Once again, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Same thing if you're now working with a company or with us, with our clients. trying to keep that in mind of what's their why and how do we put that why in the position to succeed with everybody there and the consumers. So I think it's a great book. I've learned so much from it. I've read it a couple times, and both helped me both professionally and personally. And I think it's a must read for anybody in this industry. And it'll open your eyes in a lot of different ways, and it'll make you ask some hard questions that you can kind of file away. And as you kind of going through your career, it kind of pops back up, and it's a good roadmap and a North Star to kind of help guide your career to where you want it to go.
Well, we got to check out the book. We got to make sure we're reading that SPJ on a daily basis. I know we start our classes by listening to the buzz and getting our 5 to 10 minutes of what's new. We don't necessarily care about the injury report or 27 points in the first quarter last night, but what's going on in the industry. Matt, we want to thank you. This has been great, and I hope our folks at the Applied Sport Management Conference enjoyed this. I know that Matt is super approachable, and if you do have any connections, he's always very helpful to help the students, and you can find him on LinkedIn. And would that be a true statement, Matt, that you are very helpful to folks?
Very helpful. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. Hopefully, Dr. Zullo finds the way to get that information out. He's also got my cell phone and email. I was once in your guys' shoes at one time, not too long ago. I know how hard it is to break your way into the industry and how important networking is. So I always said if I ever made it to where I wanted to get to, I want to help the next generation. So if you have a question, want to make a connection, just want to talk about the industry or look at future jobs, I'm here to help any way that I can.
One of the great ambassadors for the field, and a tremendous company that extends over so many different continents. Matt, we thank you tremendously for taking time to join us, and we wish you the best of luck as we move forward in 2021.
Totally. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you.